Oh no, I need that. Fine. Hello, good afternoon. Welcome to the Grays of Westminster live stream. I actually needed that piece of paper.
Well, it's gone now.
Oh, it's all going so well. How are you today? Hope you're all well. I'm just having a look. Thank you to everybody who has joined us already. I know. Right, today we are talking about the new releases from Nikon. For those of you who have not joined us before, and I'm sure that most of you have, but if you haven't, please do subscribe. We really appreciate it if you do. And then press the bell icon, and then you'll know when we upload a video. What else do I need to say? Oh, coffee fund. Sorry, very important. I am really in need of some coffee.
Yeah, just look at her.
So if you'd like to contribute to the coffee fund, please do by pressing the super chat icon down there. It's on my left, apparently. And you can donate a small or large sum. It would be very much appreciated. And I will be having a coffee immediately after this live stream. Hello to New York City and wow, Rob's from New York City. And
hi, Rob.
David's in Enfield. Nick's in Manchester. Ireland. Dennis is in New York, but the smoke from California has made it over. Goodness me. Well, if you are over on that side of the pond, I really do hope that you are well and safe, considering everything that's going on over there. So some of you will, those of you who are subscribed to our newsletter will have seen that I did a newsletter announcement on the 14 to 24 Z lens and the 50 1.2. That was on Wednesday. And it was very exciting. We got to see just a little presentation from Nikon. I have got some sample images to show you, although I don't know how. I was trying to do a screen capture like 3 minutes before we start live stream and it's not working. So I'm going to show you what I can show you of the pictures from the 50 1.2 at least. So, should we talk about the 1424 first?
Yeah, let's do that.
Yeah, we don't have one yet because it was announced 2 days ago. But this is the F-mount version. You can pretend that it's the Z-mount version, but it's very different. For one, it's smaller than this. So, I don't know if they can see that, but they can see this. So, the 1424 Z-mount lens is physically smaller from what I understand. It also comes, if you've looked at the promotion on it, it comes with 2 lens hoods. Was the first thing that I noticed.
Oh yeah, what's about that?
So one of them is just for normal use, a little bit like this. So the 1424, the biggest criticism, I'd say, one of the biggest criticisms was the fact that you can't put a filter on it. So if you want to shoot long exposures or if you want to put on a polarizer, then you have to buy a special Lee filter system filter. How much is that? Like £400?
I think it's like £300-400, and it's huge.
It's huge.
It's a round filter.
Right, and it goes on the front of that. And also, as far as I know, they're made to order because Lee, everything is made by hand, and they literally make them to order. So it's not like you can just go into a shop and pick one up off the shelf necessarily. So that was a little bit overcomplicated, I think. And the 1424 came out, what, about 10 years ago?
Yeah. Came out, I think, when D3 was released. So
more
D3
than.
was the first full-frame camera.
So 13 years ago.
Yeah, so they released 1424, 2470, and 7200.
So it's been around for quite a while, and I think a lot of people, I remember over the years quite a few people saying to me, when are they going to bring out a new 1424? And obviously
it happened.
It happened. It's just a Z-mount lens instead. But also this lens is one of those, I remember when I first started working at the shop.
Oh, remember
back in the
started.
day. Yeah, we both started about the same time. And one of the chaps that was working here, Tony, used to say that this was sharper than the 14mm prime. So it was the only zoom lens that I knew of that was actually sharper than its prime equivalents. So it was one of those kind of it's not broke, don't fix it sort of things. But now we've got Z mounts, it makes sense to do a 1424 Z mount lens. So that was a really long way of me explaining why there's 2 hoods. That's a very roundabout explanation. But essentially one of them is for standard use, so you'd end up with a lens that looks a little bit like that with the hood on as standard. The second one is so that you can put filters on it.
Yeah.
A hood for filters, specifically.
A hood for filters.
Yes, a hood for filters, exactly. So it's a hood. So it's a hood that actually goes on and allows you to put the 112mm
filter.
Thank you, Con.
Um,
We're going to have to
bless
a round
you,
of applause.
very
for
helpful.
So we're obviously
So hood for filters.
hood for filters. We're going to have to start stocking the 112mm filters. That
It's
is
a new size.
thus far that's the widest. That's a big piece of glass. It's bigger than this, I think, because the what is it? The 200 to 500 and the 500 PF, they're 95 now.
95.
So it's going to be even bigger than
It's
that.
bigger than that. But it's also wider viewing angles. So you need to cover that without causing vignetting.
Right, that makes sense. That makes sense as to why it's bigger. So we've got two hoods. They come with it. The filters don't come with it,
Filters don't come with it, so that's going to be extra.
as far as I know. But thank you, Ian, for your contribution to the coffee fund. I think Marilyn's working today. She might be covering constantly. Anyway, there might be a little bit of a delay there. One thing that I must mention, if you have questions while we're talking, please do ask them and we will answer them. I will try not to do my distracted answer a question while I'm in the middle of talking thing, but I will answer all your questions bit by bit. There we go. Marilyn worked. Thank you, Ian, for your contribution to the coffee fund. Much needed today.
Yeah, everything is going so smooth right now.
Yeah. So, I will tell... Ooh, look! Questions. All right. So, will Nikon continue to manufacture F-mount long telephoto lenses like 300 2.8 and larger, or will there be a Z-mount version?
Yes, they will. Until, I guess, the Z-mount versions will come out.
I have to...
Yeah.
Yes.
I think we're good for another 5 to 10 years.
Yeah. In terms of manufacturing, I don't think that they're going to stop anytime soon.
No.
But I will say this. The 300 2.8 has effectively been replaced, believe it or not, by the 120 to 300
That's
2.8. When I think I've mentioned this on a live stream before, but when Rishi from Nikon School, I think it was Rishi that was here, and I was saying, like, what is the logic behind having a zoom 120 to 300 price point, f2.8? I don't really understand that. And he said, well, look, we've got the 135, the 180, the 200 f2 monster, and the 300 2.8. All of those need replacing.
That's true.
And Nikon had kind of proved that they could create a very, very high quality zoom lens in the 180 to 400, which turned out to be one of our most popular telephoto lenses that we completely didn't expect. I think we've sold about 50 of them now, something like that,
yeah.
which was a surprise to us at the time, just because it's not a cheap lens, but optically it's fantastic. So Nikon kind of went, okay, that's proof of concept. We know that we have the lens technology to actually replace out a bunch of primes with one zoom. So they did the 120 to 300. And things like that are going to stay around for a while, but certainly they're expanding the Z-mount lineup tremendously. Hopefully that answers your question, Nick Ken. Andy asks, why does the 14-24 make sense as there is a 14 to 30 front lens already in the lineup?
Well, the reason for that being is we have 14-24 full frame lens, and we also have 16-35 f4. So 14 to 30 f4 is kind of semi-professional, and that is an equivalent of 16-35, I would say.
Yeah. Also, I would say, the 14 to 30, to be honest, if you've actually used one, you'll know that it's not its best at 14.
Let's be honest.
Let's just make it like unadulterated. The 14 to 30 to me is actually a 16. Like, you don't use it at the 14 end because it falls off so much. You can use it at the 14 end, but it falls off quite a lot. You've seen that, right?
We have customers trading in their 14 to 30s towards 14 to 24s.
They don't.
Just based on that.
No, they don't. Not yet. But I will say, Andy, just in terms of answering your question, the 14-24 is a very special it's a pro grade lens, whereas the 14 to 30 is very much of that semi-pro sort of casual user kind of thing. If you don't want to spend $2,500 on a 2.8 wide angle, then the 14 to 30 is for you. That's as simple as that.
So another analogy would be 24-70 f4 Z lens and 24-70 2.8 Z lens.
Exactly. Like, why bring out two? Well,
both are very good. F4 is almost as good as 2.8.
Yeah.
But 2.8 is designed for professional photographers.
It's that little bit better.
Exactly.
It is actually noticeably better. If you are comparing them side by side, I have personally found that the 2.8 is kind of like the best that money can buy. If you need the best 24-70 on the market, then the Z 2.8 24-70 is it. There's nothing that beats that.
So do you think 70-100 f4 is on the way?
It's not on the roadmap.
But you never know.
But you never know. But there is a 100 to 300. And I think...
That could be it.
that could be the kind of, I mean, I don't know if it's going to be cheaper than the 70 to 200 2.8, but I would imagine
Everything is cheaper than 70 to 2.8.
it's not a cheap lens. But the 100 to 300, if I remember correctly, is an S-line lens, whereas the 200 to 600 is not.
No, it's more like 24 to 200, so
Yeah.
we call it consumer.
Which was interesting. So what they're going to do is do 24 to 200 non-S-line and 200 to 600. So you could, as an amateur, have non-S-line lenses that cover you all the way from 24 to 600 mil.
And the idea is to have different price points, basically, different entries for different photographers.
Exactly.
So some people who want to get into the system fairly inexpensively, I mean, it's all arguable, but then you can look into f4 lenses. And let's say professional photographers switching from, let's say, something like D5, D50, looking at 2.8 glass, then now they have the Holy Trinity. So
Right, exactly. It's like mimicking what we already have in the f-mount lens as well, because the Holy Trinity, as they've always called it, of having 14-24, 24-70, 70 to 200, that's been kind of a pro's staple go-to, and not having those as offerings in the Z lineup doesn't make sense, really. So another thing that I wanted to mention was the weight. This is 970 grams. So it's just under a kilo. I don't know what that is in pounds. I don't...
we don't do pounds.
I don't do pounds.
Only British pounds.
We only do British pounds and then the metric system. Whereas the new 1424 Z mount lens is 650 grams.
650. That's 1/3.
No, it's 2/3. It's 650 grams, 970 grams.
Well, 1/3 is missing from...
Oh, yeah, it's a third lighter.
Simple math.
Very simple. So it's surprising that I actually, when I looked at it, didn't expect to have it to be that light. We were looking at the side by sides. What was the other lens that they showed us compared with? Was it a Sony lens?
Sony lens?
Yeah, in the introduction presentation thing.
Yes. There is a Sony lens.
Yes. Yeah. No. Thank you, Constantine.
I'm being very helpful.
When we watched a presentation from Nikon when the 1424s were announced, and they showed us a side-by-side weight comparison between the Sony 14 something, the Nikon f-mount, and their new lens. And basically the 1424Z lens is the shortest and I believe lightest FX f2.8 ultra wide angle lens ever.
There's some very light glass inside.
Yeah, exactly. You tell us what Z lenses you're using, because I know that some of you are Z users and some of you have them. Sam says, could you fit the Lee Filters 150 system with an adapter ring possibly? As far as I know, no. You can't. You do need the specific fitting. Nick Han says, waiting for my 120 to 300, still not available in Ireland. We have one, if you'd like us to send it to you. Nick says 1430 is a great little lens if extra low light is not required. There we go, because I was pretty sure, I remember Nick having one and using it for ultra wide angle stuff. So yes, if you don't need the 2.8 aperture, then that makes sense. Norm says, hello from Toronto, it's a Kodachrome day and the polarizing filters are ready to go. Don't make Kodachrome anymore, but I did find an old roll of Kodachrome in the fridge. I don't know, can you get it developed? I found some. I think it expired in like 99 or something. John points out that they're different price points. There's that.
Exactly.
Will the 1424 outperform the F-mount version on an FTZ?
I think it's safe to say that they will be at least equal.
I think it's going to be
highly
better.
likely it's going to be better, and that's just due to a wide amount.
Yeah, from what we've seen so far, because you get more glass, and obviously, the old principle is that the center of the glass is kind of the sweet spot, right? But Nikon are using bigger glass essentially, and more of it. So the 14 to 30, I didn't write down how many elements it has, but it has more elements as far as I know than this version.
14 to 30 has 16 elements in 11 groups,
right,
including 4 ED elements, 3 aspherical elements, with nanocrystal and Arneo codes. Tell me about Arneo codes.
Well, I'm glad you asked.
I was a friend of Arnie, but
yeah, I know.
That's me.
Well, actually, I've had to work out what it stands for, and I'm sure someone's going to correct me, but Arneo is anti-reflective, AR, and then neo, as in new, from the Greek word.
Matrix.
Neo, exactly. So Arneo or Arneo is basically a hyper anti-reflective coating. It's more effective for incident light coming from a vertical direction. So what you tend to get is often flare or reflections when you've got light sources high above the camera, for example, like midday sun, that kind of thing. So the Arneo coating is supposed to handle that. Nanocrystal coat, I think we pretty much all know, but again, it's an anti-flare coating.
It's a coating full of small crystals.
Yes, exactly. Thank you. It's ground. It's
Yeah.
ground glass.
It's a grinder they use.
And what was the other one? And extra low dispersion, we know.
Yeah, three aspherical elements,
Yeah, and then the extra
4 ED elements.
4 ED elements. So ED, obviously, extra low dispersion glass has been around for quite a while, but essentially when the light hits the glass rather than diffracting, it actually manages to focus the light into a smaller channel, which prevents you from getting that kind of spread of light, which means you get sharper images, basically.
And it's got a fluorine coating as well.
And a fluorine coating, which is good for keeping it clean, essentially. Repels dust and dirt and all that good jazz. Pretty much every teleconverter and every lens coming off the line now has some kind of fluorine coating in it, or for the most part.
So it's got them all.
Yeah.
All the coatings that you want to have.
Yeah, they've just thrown them all in there. The only one it doesn't have is a phase Fresnel element, but that would be...
That would make it even lighter than that.
It would.
But 650 grams, it's already very light.
I don't think that they need to add it.
I think so.
And also it might cause a bit of trouble with light points, because the 14-24 is kind of being sold as an astro lens. So, like, great for astrophotography, great for interiors. Obviously, wedding photographers would use them for the big, wide interior shots and group shots. Event photographers would use it for, again, taking pictures of entire event halls. Unfortunately, I cannot get my screen to share the 14-24 images. I couldn't get that to work. So I managed to get it to share the 51.2 ones. But if you want to have a look on the Nikon website, I mean, yes, we can do it. We can show your iPad to the... Here it is. What does it look like? Yeah, you can't see anything. Never mind.
So that was helpful.
Yeah, it was very helpful. But do have a look on the Nikon website, because essentially the shots that they put up there are unedited photos. They don't take out any of the chromatic aberration or anything. If there is any to be seen, they don't edit them. So those are unadulterated pictures. Obviously, there are going to be reviewers reviewing these before too long as well, and we'll start to see more pictures. But they're usually edited, to be honest. So, yes. Did that kind of answer you, Steve? 14-24 versus Z versus F? I think so. Also, it's going to be lighter. So putting this on an FTZ and then on a body is going to be quite heavy.
We had quite a few people upgrading to 1635, well, technically downgrading from 14-24, and that's just due to its size and weight and filter use.
And the filters, exactly. So, I mean, if you're a 16-35 user, then the 1430 is going to be the nearest equivalent anyway. Yeah, exactly. Hello from lockdown in Warrington. 2470 2.8 S line is the best. Yes, I agree, Richard. It is definitely, it's just a little cut above the standard kit lens, I would say. So Andy says, so would the 21.8 be the best wide angle option, as you say the 14 in the 1430 is unusable? Yeah, I'd say if 20 is wide enough for you, the 21.8 Z lens is phenomenal. It's better than the F mount.
Yeah, and especially for astrophotography, you got this extra stops of light as well.
Yeah, exactly. So if you are doing astro and you don't need the flexibility of a zoom, then the 20 is fantastic. It is quite big, physical. Do you feel like running upstairs and grabbing it?
Yeah, I need an exercise.
Okay, because we've got one in the demo. If you grab that and the 14 to 30. Bye. So I can show you what the 20 looks like, because I managed to. We got them during lockdown, and I actually took the demo one from the shop. And for those of you that are frequent watchers, you'll know that I use the 21.8G f-mount lens quite a lot. In fact, sometimes that is my standard walk-around lens because I'm crazy. But I tested the Z-mount lens and was surprised to find that it was better. And I think Simon Stafford has just finished a review. So for Nikon owner readers, the next magazine, I think it is, or possibly the one after, has a review from Simon on the 20 Z, and he he loved it. I mean, in a nutshell, he's got a full like 5-6 page review, but he did rate it very highly. Hello to Stephen from sunny Solihull. I use extra wide lenses every day for interior images and boats and motorhomes. The 12 to 20 range is very useful for many subjects. That's very good, Norm. Constantine, you came back nice
what
and
did
fast.
I miss?
Not much.
So much.
There we go. Look at that. So it's quite sizable as a lens. I mean, if you've got any of these lenses, you'll see. What's that? The 14 to 30
This is 14 to 30, and this is tiny.
in comparison. Yeah, it is very little. Although weight-wise, yeah, it's a bit heavier as well. Not by much, but it is a little bit heavier. So it's also not as compact as the f-mount lens, the 21.8. It's a little bit bigger, but it takes 77mm diameter, so you don't have to change all your filters. Yay! Right, so Norm uses wide angle, like 12 to 20 range for interiors. And I was gonna say you do Airbnb shots, and interior stuff for estate agents and things like that. So what's your kind of go-to lens for that photography?
14 to 24.
Right.
And then you just correct it in the post.
Right.
So,
Does it need quite a lot of correction?
I would say compared to 1635,
Yeah.
1424 is definitely has less distortion. But compared to, let's say, 20 prime,
Right.
it's definitely distorted. So yes, depending on which angle I'm shooting, sometimes requires quite a lot of post-processing. But
Yeah.
at the same time, it's a lot easier to shoot with 1424 than, let's say, 24 perspective control lens.
Right.
Sometimes you just don't have enough time to set everything up, and you literally have about 1 hour to shoot the whole property, lit every room, take several shots and angles.
Right.
So 1424 is definitely my way to go.
Right. Okay. And the 20. I mean, if you can survive with a fixed lens, the 20 is known as being the least distorted prime wide angle.
Oh yeah, very well corrected.
It is
straight
lovely
out
and
of the box.
great for astro. I know that much. Is ZTF possible? What does that mean? Do you know?
Instead of reversing the...
Oh, Z2F.
2F,
No,
No.
sadly not. So, although it would be nice, there isn't currently any kind of adapter to do that. Certainly not a Nikon solution. I don't know if anyone out there will. What did I do? I managed to just lose my train of questioning. There we go.
Quick question to the audience. So, guys, if you got 14 to 30 lens, are you thinking of upgrading to 1424?
Yeah, that would be good to know.
And if yes, why? And if not, tell us why.
Yeah, I'd be interested to know as well. Baxter points out that almost double the price the F mount makes it difficult to sell.
Everything goes up in price, unfortunately.
Yeah. When you add a 2.8 to the mix and all the extra stuff. I mean, the 14 to 30 is also missing all those coatings.
Yeah. I mean, it's also to do with inflation and currency and all those things, but everything, not just photographic equipment, has gone up in price in the last 10 years. So,
Yeah.
unfortunately, it's just the way it goes.
Yeah, and it's true. It's more expensive than the F mount lens as well. But I'm imagining that over time it will also come down a little bit in price. They usually do. Richard points out that the 105 f1.4. It's my favourite lens, and yours, really sings on the Z7. I can imagine. It looks great on a D850, so I can imagine that it looks beautiful on a
Nice
Z7.
and chunky.
F-mount user and D5 cameras, that's Nikon. So, did I say something about mathematics, or did someone else? Sometimes I don't know.
Wait.
Oh, about the weight. I don't know what I'm talking about half the time. John's wife will carry the lens, it's fine. That's what I'm saying.
Good thinking.
Oh, dear. John's wife likes to work out, so, so it's okay. So far loving the 35, 50, 85, 24. So, okay, so I asked Colin this question earlier. How many lenses in the Z lineup now?
I'd say between 10 and 15. It looks like quite a lot.
It is a lot. It's 16 lenses plus 2 teleconverters. So, yeah.
Can't believe it.
Yeah, so we've got in the primes, we've got the 20, 24, 35.
I'm fact checking you right now.
You're fact checking me
Yeah.
right now. 20, 24, 35, 51.2, which we're going to talk about in a minute.
Yep.
51.4, sorry, 1.8, I beg your pardon, which looks like a 1.4. 85, and then the 58 knocked, right? That's the
Oh, I
primes.
have that one.
Yeah,
Yes.
don't forget the knocked. We've got one in stock.
And
Nudge,
everyone
nudge.
should have one.
Wink, wink. And then on the zoom lenses now, so we've got the 14, 24, 14, 30, 24 to 50 little pancake
50,
lens.
tiny one. Then you got 70 f4, 24 to 72.8, 70 to 100 2.8.
And the 24 to 200.
And then 24 to 200.
And then two DX lenses as well, the 16 to 50 and the 55 to 200.
That's quite a few.
It's a lot of lenses, actually. 50 to 250, is that what the the ZDX lens
That's the
is?
one, 16 to 50,
Yeah.
50 to 50 lens.
Right.
I think they've been quite aggressive with their releases.
I think so.
Because I thought when they announced that 5, we were done for this year.
Yeah, I didn't expect more releases at all.
So when the rumor starts actually to show up, people were thinking, oh, it's a D850 replacement or Z8.
Yeah.
And it wasn't this.
It wasn't that, and I'm quite intrigued to see how these two lenses are received. Ilmico has 24-70 2.8, 85 1.8, beautiful lenses. Oh, Paul! Hello, Paul from Analog Wonderland is here. Everybody say hi to Paul from Analog Wonderland for me. As you know, if you're regular viewers, I talk about them a lot. So if you want to buy your film, that's where you go to. That's where I go to for all my film supplies.
Still don't know what film is.
Yeah, it's okay. Give it time. 10 more years here.
I'll get there.
So Richard has the 14 to 30, 24-70 f4, 51 870 to 200. Yes.
Quite a collection.
Wow, that's quite a good selection of Z lenses, and I would say that there's enough in the lineup now that you don't. Like, when they first announced it, it was kind of like, I need to buy every lens that's coming out because I don't have enough lenses in the range. But now you really can pick and choose. Because you don't necessarily need a 20 and a 24. But you might want a 20.
28.
They don't have a 28 yet. It's on the roadmap.
35.
35, exactly. But a 35 and then maybe a 50.
Or 58.
Or the 51.2, which we're going to talk about in a minute. So you can pick and choose your range now, which I like. It's kind of making the Zeds, I think, a bit more accessible to people, if that makes sense. So interestingly, Nick says the 14 to 30 massively less distortion than the F mount 14 to 24.
Here we go. So
And he knows because he uses these like all the time. So that's very interesting. So maybe for your next interior shots, take the 14 to 30 and see what happens. Also, I think that the cameras do a lot of work because, you know, there's a lot of software that goes into those little bodies.
I think my D850 is due to upgrade.
Yes.
And I'll leave it there.
We can talk about that later. I'm not changing my camera yet. Define better S over F on the 21.8. The S, okay, I've only used the S a little bit. I think this is a question. I'm not sure, but I'm going to answer it as though it's a question. I've only used the S a little bit. I've had the F-mount lens for a number of years, and I was never upset with the results.
Yeah, 20G is good.
It's fantastic.
Yeah.
But if you need, like, next level, then the S-mount is better. However, if you've already got the F-mount and you're using it adapted onto your Z6 or Z7 or Z5, whatever, I wouldn't say necessarily that you need to change immediately, because for the most part you won't see a huge difference. You will if you're shooting, like Astro for example, you actually, because of the construction of the lens, you do end up getting more light into the camera. So that would be useful. For interiors, that would be useful. If you're doing landscape, you're going to shoot at f8 anyway, you know? So it's like, why change? So it does depend on what you're doing, but that's hopefully a simple answer for you there, James. So Nick can try the Z6 and Z7 with the FTZ adapter nighttime. International football match. Tracking and focusing wasn't near the ability of my D5. Nope, yes.
That's, kind of normal. They're not as good in focusing than DSLRs.
No, and I think we've kind of covered that a few times, like in terms of if you are a sports photographer and that is your bread and butter, then, you know.
And I think that's where we'll see the most improvement in these cameras with the future releases, because lenses are already here. The image quality is fantastic already, so all we're going to see is probably maybe bump in resolution, but also huge improvement in autofocus speed.
Yes, exactly. I think the AF systems are already very good for what they do, but they just need a little bit more improvement to be usable for sports and wildlife. I mean, also wildlife, it depends on how you use them. I've talked about Steve Perry a few times before. He's got this fantastic guide on how to shoot wildlife with Z system cameras. And I highly advocate looking at his YouTube videos, because if you need help shooting wildlife and you've already got a Z system, hands down, his is the best guide. But in terms of sports, it's slightly different. I mean, with wildlife, there's a certain amount of, I would say, opportunistic photography. It's like timing and patience and, skill. Yeah, there's that too. And good equipment, but mostly it's down to the photographer. Whereas with sports, I think it's slightly different. It's like you've got a set period of time in which you can take photos. You're not going to sit in a hide for 5 or 6 hours. If you miss the shot of the bird in flight, possibly not the end of the world. If you miss the scoring goal, that could, that would be the difference between you making money from your shoot or not. So if you need equipment that you can 100% rely on, then still the D5 or the D6, because the bumped up AF system is the biggest improvement, then those are what you go for. So do you think that Nikon will make a tilt shift lens for the Z system? No, they're not on the roadmap. They're not on the roadmap. It does change. The roadmap changes quite frequently.
Yeah, I think that will happen, but that won't be the first thing on the list of lenses to replace. So I think it's going to happen maybe in a couple of years down the road.
Yeah, because they did not that long ago bring out the 19mm.
Yep.
So I don't know if they would want to then put some more R&D money into doing a perspective control lens. Yes, don't forget the super chat. I haven't quite got enough for an oat milk latte yet. Oat milk flat white. So, but yeah, if you'd like to contribute to the coffee fund while we're blabbing away, please do. The thingy is below. If you're watching it not live, you can use the PayPal me link, which is also below somewhere or other. Ed says, good morning, new lenses. Yes, good morning. From Mexico, I think Ed is. So thank you for joining us. So now, what Andy says, because I know that John uses perspective control lenses a lot on his D850 for product photography. It would make sense for at some point for them to do that.
Something like 85.
Yeah.
It's got a macro
facility
as well.
A 45
is good,
something like that. Andy says 20 f mount is smaller if you consider the AFD version. Yeah, but AFD version is not all that. It's fine if you shoot on an f5 or an f6. If you're a film photographer, then the f mount D version of the 20mm is fine. But I used to use one for concerts on my D700 and then D4S for a while, and anything above sort of 200 ISO, it just falls apart. Really, it just can't handle low light.
I think those lenses are great documentary lenses, like 20, 24, 28, because they're so small.
Yeah.
And then they're quite discreet. The new ones are a lot bigger.
Yes. Yeah, exactly.
Optically, though, they're not as good as the G-type.
Less glass, less coatings, everything. Nikon updated the roadmap a couple of days ago. 16 Z lenses currently available. Yeah, there we go. 8 more in the pipeline. You guys have just announced... Yes. Well, not us, but Nikon. Nikon have just announced a 1424 and 51.2, but thank you. We will take credit. Thank you, Nick Can. It's Irish whiskey. That it would be an Irish coffee right there. Thank you very much for your contribution to the coffee fund. I love how everybody says hello to people in our chat because they're regulars, Hi Paul, your film is in the fridge at the moment. See, I have been sending lots of people to Analog Wonderland. There is a code, Grays_10 with capital G, gives you 10% off your first order.
Becky sent me here.
10% exactly, 10% off, just like that. Okay, so Richard says, very much looking forward to the 100 to 400 S line. I thought it was a 100 to 300. Did I get that wrong? It's quite possible.
We don't prepare.
No. Not at all. And the 200 to 600. I got that one right. That's not an S-line lens, interestingly enough. I'm very intrigued. Although, you've got the 24 to 200.
That's right. And so far, it's pretty good.
Okay.
I've just started filming the review, and I had, about 10 days with it?
So far, I think?
So far.
A week, yeah.
And it's very sharp. I was surprised. Compared to 28 to 300, it's a very good improvement.
Well, that I'm glad of.
And I don't really...
28 to 300 wasn't great.
And the funny thing is, I don't really shoot with long lenses.
Yeah.
I normally kind of go to 105 probably as far as I go.
Yeah.
But with this one, in my garden, with all the wildlife, I was just using 200 most of the time.
All the wildlife.
All the wildlife.
So much wildlife.
You know, the squirrels and
Neighbour's cat.
the cat, the pigeon,
Yeah,
all the UK wildlife.
that's right.
I'm still trying to catch that fox that goes to my garden, does nasty things to the plants.
Well,
Leaving presents every morning.
if at any point you decide you're done with 24 to 200, I have actual wildlife. I have deer and woodpeckers and various birds.
You live abroad, don't you?
I do. I live in the
Out of
countryside,
London.
out of
It's
London.
pretty much abroad, isn't
Country,
it?
country bumpkin now.
But it is very good lens. I'm actually honestly surprised because I normally snark at those lenses, like 18 to 200 and 28 to 300. I wasn't particularly impressed with them. And I always say, well, it's a good value for money. It's a range over the image quality. With this one, though, I think if I would have to buy, let's say, camera now, I would probably get 24 to 100 over 24 to 70 because size-wise, they're about the same.
Yeah.
And optical quality is very close.
Interesting. Okay. Well, we do, as you subscribers will know, we do upload a video usually about once a week. So we're trying to do more review videos. I think we've got one on the Z50 and Vlogger kit. To later. It's coming soon. And so Con will do one.
Yeah, that's
putting
probably
together.
2-3 weeks away, but yeah, it's coming.
We do prepare some things. Not everything. Not the live streams.
On a good day.
On a good day, we're quite prepared. So now, Richard says, I found the 14 to 30 f4 really good. Don't do a great deal of wide angle, so don't think I can justify the f2.8, but never say never. Yeah, I can understand that. If 1424, that kind of range is not your bread and butter, then you know, don't need to part with your £2,400 right now. Just for those people that were asking, the lens is supposed to be with us on the 29th of October. You can pre-order it. I say supposed to because I'm always
Nikon time.
in Nikon time, 29th of October. And we do have some people, obviously, that are pre-ordering them. So if you are keen to get one early on them, please pre-order it early. Because if you order it the day before they arrive, I will undoubtedly have already allocated all the stock that we're getting in. Now, what else would I want to say about that? I think that's it on the 1424, actually. Just going to make sure I haven't missed anything. Thank you very much, Terry, for your contribution to the Coffee
Terry.
Fund, latte and cheesecake. Yes, thank you.
I'm already feeling better.
Yes, exactly. Suggestion, add a Venmo option for the Coffee Fund. That's an American thing.
What's Venmo?
It's an American thing.
For us Brits,
For spirits. But,
like me and you.
yeah, but Venmo is like a Venmo is I know from following US accounts that's like a buy me a coffee thing anyway. And they have another one which is coffee, which is KOFI.
Like Constantine with K.
Yeah. Yeah, but anyway, but thank you, Rob, for the suggestion. Peter asks, when will Nikon announce the 7200 f4Z? It's not on the roadmap yet, so I don't know is the answer.
But I think it may happen in a couple of years' time because it just makes sense. As we discussed, we've got 14-30 f4 now, we've got 24-70 f4, so it just makes sense to complete this line. So we've got 2.8 Holy Trinity, and then
Yes.
what would we call this? Not Holy Trinity?
Well, it's the same like in the F mount range. We've got the Holy Trinity, and then we've got the just below. We've got the F4 line, and they all overlap a little bit. Like
and they're all very good.
They're all very good. I had the 120 and had the 70 to 200 f4. The interesting thing about the f4 range is that they do usually overlap their ranges slightly. Like 1635 overlaps 120 overlaps 70 to 200. You don't usually need all three.
I know.
But you know.
I'm a snob, so I have 2.8.
So you just I just shoot with primes. So, John says one reason I've not jumped onto the Z system is they're a bit lighter for the wife to carry. Really have to get her to design a camera bag system, John. I think that's the money ticket. I believe there's a box that says 19mm in the back. Yes, this is the perspective control lens, 19mm. That's not the widest they do. The 14mm is the widest. Is that discontinued, the 14mm?
Well,
I can't remember.
you can still order it, but it's on special order.
They're probably not making them, and they've got stock reserve it.
The funny
Reserved.
thing is, they still have 24 to 85 2.8 to f4D
Hate that
that
lens.
can be ordered.
It's so strange.
And we thought it has been discontinued about 5-7 years ago.
Yeah, but there are some lurking
Yeah.
around.
300 f4D, which will cost you about the same as the new fluorite version, but it's still available.
The Face Fresnel version. It's not
Yes.
fluorite. Yeah,
Pia,
yeah, that's the one.
fluorite.
Well, it's close enough. Yeah, there are some weird ones that they've obviously either still got stock or they're still making in small quantities. Like I think I've mentioned a few times the 80 to 200N version, still made for the Japanese and US markets, or you can order them there, but you can't order them in the UK. So I don't know.
80 to 200 2.8D to touch. That one, I think I
That's
read
what I was
somewhere
saying,
that's still
English.
available in India or something.
Really? As well.
Yeah.
So this is strange, strange places that they decide, we'll distribute them here, but not in England or Europe. Fine. Maybe they're just not called for here. Sam doesn't have a spare £2,000 to part with. Okay. I know how you feel.
Me neither.
None of us do. Saw someone saying there was some lens flare shooting into the sun on the 24 to 200. Would be interested to hear your findings. So
Okay, I can try that.
yeah. We've had some sun actually recently. So someone was commenting on the type of whiskey that we should put in our coffee. I don't drink, so I'm not going to be putting whiskey in my coffee.
Like
But,
12-year
12-year
single malt.
something like that.
21.
Yeah.
21 year.
Or 20, guys, I mean, I'm happy for 21 years, so if you keep sending me
Yeah,
those.
exactly. Would-
Aberlour is the way to go.
which one?
Aberlour.
Okay,
I can't spell it since it's in Scottish.
it's
but,
Scottish. Now, away from the whiskey, Andy says, would you call it the Bronze Trinity or the Poor Man's Trinity? I mean, I wouldn't.
Well, PR and marketing would say it's...
I think it's the
It's in the
prosumer is
Prosumer,
where
yeah.
it sits.
They're all very good. That's the good thing about them.
Yeah.
Especially on Z range. 24-70 f4 is fantastic.
It's really good.
And for the lens that's called a kit lens, it basically wipes everything pretty much. I think it's much better than 24 to 200 f4G.
Yes,
So, and that's supposed to be a pro lens.
yes.
So 14
24 120 f4.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So 14 to 30 f4 is superb, and as our audience mentioned, it's much less distorted at 14 mil. So overall, I personally would say just think what suits you the most, and as well your budget as well.
Yeah, you don't have to throw money at a 2.8 lens
Exactly,
unless you're
exactly.
Constantine, and then you can do what you like.
Yeah, I just get sent stuff.
We should talk about the
no.
51.2. We don't get sense of.
Yeah.
We should talk about the 51.2 because this is this. I actually have pictures to share for this one. So it is quite a chunky lens. It's nearly 1,100 grams.
So it's
bigger than that.
It's bigger than that.
And it's bigger than the beautiful AIS version, which I believe Nikon still make in small quantities. So this is the 51.2. Let me just show it to you. This is the 50. I'm just going to see what you can see here. This is the 51.2 AIS. It fits in my hand. Thank you, Peter, for your contribution to the coffee fund. So as you can see, it's very, very tiny. This is the kind of thing that literally sits in my kit bag. A lot of the time, I've actually got the 55 1.2. I've talked about this before. But it's fit in your hand. It's what, like 350
Oh,
grams?
thank you, Peter.
For its coffee. Here's one we made earlier. Where's mine?
You need a mug.
I do. So the Nikon one is a kilo and a bit.
Yes.
So it's much chunkier than this one. But it does have 17 elements in 15 groups. I would say and it has the Arneo coating, the one that we talked about. Arnie coating. It does also have an 82mm front lens element, so that just gives you an idea of the size of this thing. 82mm is the same as the 24-70 2.8. It's the same as
24-70, 2.8
I
ER.
just said that. But the other one, they're both the F mount and the Z mount, but it's a big lens. So if you want a kind of pro video lens, I would say, or a pro portrait lens, and you need something a bit wider than 85, then the 51.2 is probably where you look.
And it's got autofocus.
And it's got autofocus. So if 8.5 grand is not something you want to spend on a manual focus Noct lens, if you do, let me know. I've got one. But if you don't like that's quite a special lens. If you want an autofocus 50mm that is a bit special, I would liken it to the kind of the quality of the 58 1.4. Do you know what I mean? Like in terms of that slightly different rendering. Thank you, Richard, for your contribution to the coffee fund. Thank you so much. That's for my coffee. You're not getting any of that. Yeah, Gray's mugs. That's what I need, is a Gray's Westminster mug. It's an excellent idea, Sam. Thank you. You heard it here first. Why mention the 24-120? Remember it in the D700 era? No, so we're talking about the new one.
Not the 3.5 to 5.6G,
Which was
4G.
horrible.
Let's not talk about
Yes,
that.
let's not talk about that lens. The 24-120 f4 VR, it's actually a VR2, but they don't put the Mark II on it because it's the first f4. It's not.
Yeah, and it's supposed to be a
iteration.
pro glass because they would have this kind of bronze ring around the
exactly.
filter rim.
Exactly. So the f4 is a very different kettle of fish, and in terms of image quality, it's not quite as good as the 24 to 70 2.8, but I have used it for plenty of events and concerts, and it's almost as sharp when you stop it down to about f5.6. So if you need 2.8, again, you go 2.8. If you don't, the 24-120. I also prefer the fact it's a bit more flexible. It's just the range is a bit more flexible for travel. It's the lens that I take on holiday with me. I'm going to show you some pictures, hopefully. Fingers crossed. Wow. That's good. There we go. So these are some pictures of the 51.2. I think it's not showing me the cursor. That's not very helpful. But I think I can zoom in there. These are quite big files. So you get an idea of what the rendering is like.
It's nice bokeh.
It's lovely bokeh, and I don't know what aperture they're using, but even still, you know, her hand is still in focus at that range. I've got quite a few to go through, so I'll there we go.
And here she's looking out of the window.
Here she is looking out the window. Look at that.
Very dreamy.
It is. I don't know. Okay. For some reason, I haven't got the cursor on, so I can't see what
What do
I'm
you
doing.
think she's thinking about?
Does it matter? So you can see the just the shallow depth of field and how I hope that they've got some with some points of light in the background. I actually can't remember if they do.
It's a
But you can
beautiful
see
window light.
It's very nice natural lighting for that one. But you can also see like one eye is in focus, the other isn't. So that's the depth of field. Even her lips are out of focus in that one. So that's probably shot at about f1.2, I would say. More of the same.
Should have opened it up, no?
Well, so now you get a better idea of the bokeh. If you can see the little points of light in the background, it's very circular. I can't remember how many blades it's got, but it's something, I think it's 9 or 12. Have you got it there?
Nope.
Okay. Well, anyway, we'll find how many blades it's got and the tech specs.
Here we got tech specs.
All of them.
Almost there. Okay, so we got 17 elements
Yeah.
and 15 lens groups.
And then nine
diaphragm blades.
Rounded, which is why you get that circular bokeh, basically. So, I mean, these are some of these shots Nikon have actually put on their website, but they haven't put all of them on. They kind of give the dealers a different set of images to what they put on the website most of the time. So we get...
Oh, she's happy.
She's happy. This is a model that's actually smiling. This is why I like this image.
And she's got flowers.
Then, well, someone's got some flowers. That, again, I think that's shot quite wide open because depth of field is very, very shallow on
So
that
if
one.
you don't want to see the person in the frame, you can just blur it.
That's right. If you want to get rid of that. Then here's some okay, so these are outdoorsy
That's
shots.
nice.
You've got this artistic bokeh in the foreground as well, which is quite nice. That adds to it. It's interesting also because the sort of skin tones and everything are quite flat, which is very
I like
much of
that.
a portrait lens, yeah.
Very neutral color rendering.
As opposed to kind of like bright and punchy and in your face. Some of those smaller lenses you find are quite punchy, and I noticed, I mean, sometimes that's not true to reality, let's say. So having a portrait lens where you've got this flat neutral
nice.
tonality is good. I think, yeah, that's the last one. So there we go. Let me switch back over. I really have lost my cursor. I can't see it. Okay, it disappeared when I was doing the screen grab. But so that gives you just a little idea of some of the kind of things that you can do with the lens. As I say, I find that the smaller, cheaper lenses can sometimes be, the colours are slightly over-exaggerated,
Yeah.
if you know what I mean. Whereas the lenses that have that sort of more dreamy look about them
Yeah.
almost make the subject look a bit more 3D.
Yeah.
I would say.
So we're looking at more neutral color rendering, which is good for skin tones, more of pastel colors. Kodachrome.
Yes.
Would you say that?
I would say portrait. I would say
yeah.
portrait.
I think that this is kind of, if you have, let's say, 58 1.4, I would like to see a comparison between these two lenses, because
Yeah.
let's be honest, 51.4G is not that great. I mean, it's a good lens, but it's not amazing lens. And I think this 51.2S lens will definitely be a lot better. So I just want to see comparison between 58 1.4 and 51.2. So maybe that's something we can do in the future.
I think what we will do is, as soon as Nikon starts to see samples coming through, we'll try and get a loaner from them. Like the kind of one, normally they give us pre-production models if we get one at all. So sometimes we have to wait for the final versions to come out. But if they can just loan us one for a couple of days, then we can do those tests for you and we can show them. Sam's talking about the size of the mug. We want like a proper Grays of Westminster mug. Nigel says she's dreaming about where to get the £2,000 for the lens.
Let's dream together.
Yes, exactly. So this one is recommended retail 2299, and to be honest, the delivery date is still to be confirmed. We don't know, but they say December, hopefully. So
2023.
lovely Christmas present for somebody. London Grays umbrellas. Yeah, we have umbrellas. We just need mugs. That's the next step, I think. Then I can have my coffee in a GOW mug. I'd like to see an 85 1.2 in the S line.
Me too.
That would be such a big lens, though.
It's okay.
It would be so big. Because you look at like the 105 1.4. I remember when that came out, and we were like, oh, such a big portrait lens. And I said, why can't they do a 135 or, like the DC replacement, basically? And they're like, one of the guys at Nikon said, do you know how big that would be? Like, if we did a 1.4 version of a 135, it would be, which is why the 200 f2 is so colossal.
Well, I think Sigma makes one, and it's humongous.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just the way that the technology works. You've got to bear all these things in mind. I mean, we can create wish lists to our heart's content, but then someone's actually got to design these things, which is another matter. See, Ed says that's one thing I love about shooting film, leaving the obsession for top sharpness aside. Yeah, I agree. I mean, so often with film photos also particularly, I find sometimes having a bit of image blur or whatever adds to it. It's harder to get that with digital photography, or it's harder to appreciate it. I know I'm getting very philosophical now, and you're just going completely blank.
No, but I agree in terms of that sharpness is not everything. How sharp is sharp?
Yeah.
As long as the image is fantastic, it can have motion blur in there. It doesn't matter.
Exactly.
So in terms of this, yes, let's take 20 pictures of the brick walls and see distortion, how sharp it is. You're not going to do that in your real life.
No.
You know? So if you're taking, let's say, portrait, sharpness is not that important.
Yeah.
As long as it's reasonably sharp,
Yeah.
it's more about the mood of the image.
Which has, in terms of creativity, it's more down to what the photographer decides to do with the image rather than what the lens is doing, if you see what I mean. It certainly contributes, but it's not the be-all, end-all.
And if you look, let's say f4 line now, 14-30 and 24-70 f4, they're a lot better than, let's say, old manual focus glass in terms of sharpness.
Yeah.
So if you need the sharpness, you don't have to spend several thousands of pounds. You can get reasonably priced lens, and it still will be a lot better than the lens produced 20 years ago.
Yeah.
That's just how technology improved.
Yeah, exactly. Baxter says, large number of lens elements in a lens tends to denature to colours due to the capacities... Sorry, I can't pronounce that word. Capacitis... Nature. Yeah. Nature of glass. This is why the lower element count lenses tend to have better color rendition. That's interesting. Didn't know that. Thank you, Baxter. Those fully dressed shots are great to see how the lens deals with crossing lines and check patterns. Yeah. And great, no fringing. Exactly. No fringing on a lens like that. Woody's here a little bit late, but hello. Thank you for joining us. There you go. Your language describing the 51.2 reminds me of what I see through the 180 f2.8D. It's a very special lens, the 180 2.8D. But, as we were saying, newer technology tends to be sharper. If sharper is not the end of the world, then, don't necessarily need to worry about it.
I think we all caught up with this race of specs, basically specifications and megapixels and frame rates. Yes, if you need that, that's important. But if you just enjoy photography and if you don't take any critical application, like I say, sports, where you need to capture that particular shot.
Yes.
You can choose equipment from 50 years ago or the equipment that's just been, let's say, released or not released or coming up,
Yeah.
and get great results with all of them. So it's all about you as a creator, as a photographer, and less about the equipment. It's so easy to say, oh, this is bigger, faster, better. Look, people were taking pictures with D70 and G100s back in the day with Nikon F.
Yeah. And, magazine print size.
Exactly.
I remember one chap came in and he brought a magazine that he'd taken this beautiful shot of a praying mantis, and it was quite a few years ago now, but even then, when I said, what camera did you use? He said D40. And, even then the D40 had been discontinued for a number of years, and it was like, wow, well, that's great. It's the photographer, as we touched on quite a lot last week. If you didn't catch our live stream last week, we were talking all about photography inspiration, but very much what you're saying, Con, about, it's the art.
We work in a camera shop, so we speak a lot of technical language. But in my opinion, as long as the specifications don't overshadow creativity,
Yes.
that's what becomes important.
Yeah.
So it's just so easy to get up. Oh, this is 46 megapixels. This is 80 megapixels.
Wow, so many pixels.
That's the thing. Get a camera that you like. Get a lens that you like. Just go take some pictures.
Yes.
That's the best thing you can do.
Exactly. It's more about the feeling, I think. If you're doing it commercially, then you do need the, you need the best.
That's a different thing.
Exactly. John says it's okay, his wife can carry it. So there's a 51.2. So I'll sign you up for one of those, John. Put you on the waiting list right now. Baxter
For a wife.
uses for John's wife uses the Canon 51.2L in his kit. However, not often practical to use it at 1.2. I will say the same. I've got the, as I said, 55 1.2 AIS at 1.2. It's not really very practical to use at all.
Generally, stop them down by at least half a stop, and then you'll see huge improvements in overall sharpness. But also, you just to increase your depth field a little bit, so just enough to cover eyes, let's say, and ears and nose.
Exactly. Graham says the 135 1.8 art is a lump to carry around. So yes,
It's a nice lamp to have.
yeah, exactly. Not complaining, I'm sure. Nick Can uses his FM2 alongside the D5. Yes,
There we go.
Excellent.
That's what we
Glad
like.
to hear it. For file you print, and most digital you do not print film. I think he means, John means film. So yes, you do. I do know a lot of people that tend to print all of their film shots. They don't print so many digital shots.
That's true.
As I've mentioned, I kind of make a point to do it about once a year, but of all my digital shots. But it's not the same. Yeah, exactly. Is Nikon Onamag back in print now? Yes. Well, the next issue is a printed issue. The last two were electronic, as you saw with the flippable pages. But yeah, the next one will be printed for you, Terry. Yeah, exactly. So as Rebecca says, I'm glad you said that makes sense. Your eyes, it's your eyes, the equipment just records it. Exactly. It's all about composition and, how you choose to portray a subject rather than...
Unless we all start to have lenses in our eyes.
That's next level and slightly scary. Let's not go there. It's not what you have, it's how you use it. Nature's awesome details are worth a very sharp lenses, especially in macro. Yeah, it's how you use it. Ed says, like, for example, nature's details. Yeah, if you can't get a sharp shot with the equipment that you've got, and it's not because you're not shooting at a shallow, a wide enough depth of field, other way around, narrow enough depth of field, or you're not using a fast enough shutter speed, if it literally is down to the lens quality, then sure, definitely look at upgrading. And we're not going to stop buying equipment just because.
That's the thing. We all love equipment.
Yeah.
But we also keep forgetting that the equipment we already have is very good.
Yes, exactly. I mean, I could not fault the D850. I don't need a replacement. Do I want a Z7? Maybe. But, doesn't mean that my photography is going to get better because of it. Graham's wife only carries her J5 and not his equipment. So there we go.
That's it. Mystery solved.
I agree with her on that. I mean, luckily... my husband carries all my equipment for me, but not willingly. Where can you get the Nikon Onamag? Not available here in Ireland. It is. You just need to sign up online. You can do it through our online shop, or you can go directly to the Nikon Ona website, or just drop me an email and I'll sign you up. Simple. My grandkids are showing an interest training them to carry my kids. Yeah, that's part of the... You have to train them to carry the equipment before they get into photography. So, yeah,
since they're young.
Oh, yes. So, sorry, missed a comment. The Japanese have a word for the appreciating of the non-perfect and seeing beauty in the imperfect. It's called wabi-sabi. Really? Wow, I mean, they have words for things that we don't have, but I like that very much. You might use
They
that.
have words.
They have words for things that we don't have words for, don't try to simplify it. My 55 macro is more than sharp enough. 55 macro is actually
Exceptional lens.
a very good lens for reproduction. That was what it was made for. It was made for copying documents and slides and stuff like
Recording
that.
images.
And recording images.
Taking photographs.
That too. Is the 51.2 really worth the extra cost over the 51.8? Don't know yet.
We'll find out.
But we will find out. We will do a test when we get it, and we'll compare them, and then we'll let you know, and we'll show our findings. We'll probably do a whole video, including an unboxing and stuff when they
I
start
think
to
we're
come
going to do
in.
some comparison.
I agree.
I like 51.8.
Yes, it's can't fault it.
Yep, but I still think that normal 50 should be at least 1.4.
Yeah. Although they say the performance of the 1.8, because you've got
Yeah.
less distance between the back of the glass and the sensor, means that it performs as though it were a 1.4 in terms of light capturing.
You've just opened a big can of worms.
I have, right at the
comments
end.
are coming in.
Right at the end of our live stream.
No, 51.8 is fantastic. Superb lens. 1.2 is another level, but again, different price points.
Yeah.
So one is what, £600? Another one is £2,000.
The 1.8 is actually less. I think it's 400 and
Well, it's a bargain then.
499, is it, or something around that?
We know our prices.
We we work in sales, right? So I will just mention on this piece of paper that you tore up so delightfully that I actually needed. Before I forget and before we
It was my YouTube contract.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, not anymore. That Nikon are doing a flash sale, so we've got sort of instant discounts on the bodies. It only runs until the 23rd of September, but there's an instant discount on the D780, on the Z6, and on the Z50, all kit varieties.
Are there any flashes on sale?
No.
Here we go. It's a flash sale.
It's a
guys.
flash sale with no flashes in it. And then the lens promo is basically the equivalent of about 10% off every lens. I mean, Nikon have made it 10% off. We've kind of adjusted that slightly because our prices are a little bit different. So that runs until the 30th of September. All of those prices are on our online shop. So if you're looking for a good deal, then you've got between now and I think the 23rd is next Wednesday.
Yeah.
So
all the prices we have, they already include that discount.
Yeah, so exactly. So if you go on the website, you will see all the prices with the discount included. But it means that you can pick up a Z6 now for $14.59.
It's really good.
Yeah, super cheap. And the full kit is now 1919, so it's under £2,000.
You're practically giving it away.
Cheapest. It's the cheapest it's been for a while.
So you don't need £2,000, you just need £1,000.
That's right. And £900, £1,900. There will be a link in the description box taking you to that. So if you want to have a little look at our sale prices, they will be there. As I say, it's a flash sale. We are also still doing our discount codes on second-hand equipment. Some are 50, some are 100. Those will also be below if you want to buy something second-hand. I thought I'd just shove that in there at the last minute, but we are going to love you and leave you now. Thank you so much for joining us. Thank you for all your questions.
Thank you.
Andy, yes, it's worth dropping a message to the Nikon owner guys because they will tell you, but I will look into it for you. Baxter, with the improvement of high ISO and low light focus, the faster glass is less relevant. Yes,
That's true.
that's very true. Right. It's lovely to see you all in the virtual, on the comments. We will see you next week for another live stream. And if you have not subscribed yet, please do so that you get notified when we upload a video. We will be uploading a video on the Z50 a little bit later. Right. Have a wonderful
Is that it?
weekend. That's it.
Bye.
Bye.